I have unlocked the level 21 sentry, the final endgame sentry. And now, at long last, at least for a while, I don't have to upgrade the sentry anymore. So that's definitely one thing off my back. Especially considering how every time I upgrade the sentry, it essentially cripples my entire defense. Now, the only thing that will do that is probably the scanner, which is still level 13. And I'm also upgrading my beacon to level 19, so that's on the way as well. And aside from that, I am completely broke. And that's because I haven't really been doing any hacks since I have been upgrading the sentry. Because every time I upgrade the sentry or the scanner, people just suddenly start pouring in. And I just lose hundreds of reputation at a time. And I already lost, I think, 100 reputation just from one day of the sentry being down. And I didn't even have any B coins, only money. And considering how every hack gives me plus 3 reputation, this is going to take like at least 30 hacks to make up for it. So if you have some sort of tricks to not lose reputation every time you upgrade a critical node, let me know, because I am already keeping my resources low. Or maybe this isn't low enough. But since we're on that topic, I actually noticed that I don't get as many attackers as I used to do. Because if we take a look at my security log, a lot of the replays have already expired. There's a huge list of these, all expired, and back in the days, I would actually get so many hacks on me every day that I would never see an expired replay, and now more than half of them have completely expired. So it's actually kind of hard to judge by this whether my network is an improvement or not, since I can't so easily compare it to before, because I don't get the same amount of attempts on my network anymore. So I can't just look at the success ratio, which is kind of disappointing. But since I have almost no hacks, this is most likely going to be a much shorter episode, because there really isn't that much to show since I haven't actually done anything. And people attacking me while my sentry's being upgraded isn't really that interesting. But I did want to show this one hack that I did against Neo from Antarctica, and I have to do it now because otherwise it's going to expire, which is kind of annoying. It really would be nice if there was a way to like pin a hack so that it never expires or something like that, but I guess we'll have to make do with what we got. So in this replay, I decided to go a bit unconventional, because he was using a network style that punishes beam cannon. And you've seen this already from people like Muscles, 2411, Yopee, all of those people, and it's basically a play on attack priority. On this code gate, you can only attack this code gate, so you get hit by high-level antivirus from the scanner for free. On this choke point, you can only attack this code gate, so you get hit by antivirus from the compiler and the program library for free. And then on this choke point, you can only attack the core, so you get hit by antivirus from this Guardian for free. So given that he has level 20 antivirus, it's going to be really tough for only a level 10 protector. And that's because the protector does regenerate and does have a lot of firewall, but that only works in the short term. So this level 10 protector could actually take down security nodes quite easily, but against the code gate, which takes a very long time to take down, that's when the protector starts struggling and starts dropping. So ideally, the best way to tackle this would probably be either a Battering Ram, which would basically let me take down the code gate really quickly, Shurikens, which would nullify these two nodes, so then I wouldn't be getting hit on 3 sides from antivirus level 20, or even Blaster disabling 1 nodes permanently, so then I'm only taking damage from 2 nodes instead. But even so, my protector level 10 still will drop with 2 nodes doing antivirus level 20. I believe I have to go up to, say, level 14 protector, then I think I can hold 2 nodes indefinitely with the protector, or something like that. But since I have neither of those, I decided to go with something a bit more unconventional. And that's right, the Kraken. Now, everybody have been saying that the Kraken sucks once you get to a higher level, and I think it is true to an extent, and that's because basically at a higher level, a lot of people tend to not protect the core. But then at the same time, when you're at a higher reputation, like what I'm at, people actually still want to protect the core because we're all trying to climb reputation. So it depends on the meta as well. If you're on the high level but low reputation meta, then people don't really care about reputation and the core will be outside, then the Kraken really wouldn't do much. But here, I can actually use the Kraken depending on how the network layout is. Like in this example, where the core is behind the code gate. This way, I can now abuse the Kraken as basically as if it was a level 21 beam cannon. Cause if we add up the Kraken, 5 Kraken equates to 180 damage per second, which is just a bit higher than a level 21 beam cannon. And this is only level 1 Kraken. A level 21 Kraken would probably be significantly higher, and I don't even have the stats for that on the Wikipedia, so there's that going. So essentially, this is equivalent damage to a level 21 beam cannon, plus level 18 beam cannon hitting it. And the benefit in doing this over, say, using double blasters is that I can still use the shocker to replace the one beam cannon, and then the Kraken would basically replicate itself, so I don't have to worry about losing the Kraken, but I do have to worry about losing the blaster if I were to use the blaster. And luckily, he actually has his attack already messed up, so I didn't really have to worry about spamming shocker on that one scanner, because I brought down 8 shockers because I was afraid that the protector wouldn't last long enough, so that's why I brought so much shockers that I would have enough time to make sure that the code gate breaks. But unfortunately, this wasn't really a good test, so I didn't take full control because it was kind of just screwed up by the attacker already, and this was only a temporary layout for Neo anyway, as he later mentioned on his core. But as you can see here, that I am thinking that this could be one potential use case for the Kraken. Ultimately though, it's very situational and pretty expensive, because that's 5 Kraken, each of which has I think it was 8-minute compilation time, and it only works if they set up their network so that the core is in the back. So in many cases, it probably would have been better to just use the blaster here. But the situation here is perfect since he had his core behind all of his code gate. Although realistically, it probably isn't worth it to level the Kraken, because the blaster also provides the disable effect, and I believe it's actually cheaper and faster to level the blaster to level 21. So the Kraken is still very situational, but I just want to show that this is one possible use case for the Kraken, even at level 40, which is pretty interesting. Another thing that this could be good for is against the strategy where you use 3 Guardians on the core. Since the Kraken does so much damage, it might be able to overwhelm the shields way better than you could with just beam cannons and shockers. But ultimately, I think this probably wouldn't come into play until extreme late game, where after you max out your blaster level 21, and even then that's still not enough damage because maybe they have, I don't know, level 21 Guardian, then maybe the Kraken could add that final bit of damage. But unfortunately, we haven't really seen anyone demonstrate the power of the level 21 Kraken in an actual use case yet. I know there are some videos of NERAD vs Acid War where Acid War uses the Kraken, but Acid War always comes in and wraiths all the code gate, and even the Guardian and Sentry, so when that happens, it doesn't really do the Kraken any justice. Because I mean, there's no real challenge there anymore, so the Kraken is just there for extra damage, I guess. Now, another thing is, I changed my network again. Because I was discussing with Yopee in the comments of my last video, and basically we both agree with the notion that the 2 Black Ice doesn't really do any damage for the first 4 seconds, so they're pretty much as good as just any regular nodes using antivirus attacks. He did say that the turret might be better though, because the turret would actually make it harder to set up the ice wall, but in my opinion, that's really insignificant and inconsequential, so I wouldn't really rely on that being the reason I win or lose the defense. So instead, I changed the layout to be more based off the time wasting strategy. So as you can see, I now have a choke point here, connected to a code gate, connect to another choke point, which is connected to another code gate. And then I have non-security nodes with the scanner and the compiler, and the code gate, and the evolver connected to the choke point. And the attack priority is set to attack the code gate first. So now, this is basically the exact same strategy that we just saw when I was attacking Neo. But there is a slight difference, because I don't really like the fact that it's vulnerable to Shurikens. Because with Shurikens, you can disable the 2 passive nodes that's using the antivirus hit, And that way, it's not even threatening anymore. You just have to focus on the one code gate. So that's why I made the back into a maelstrom, with security nodes connected to each of these non-security passive nodes, who's just responsible for antivirus attacks. So the idea here is to make it harder for shurikens to simply disable these passive nodes by making them get reclaimed by the security nodes. Although one potential downside is that it could make taking down this code gate a bit easier if they manage to get onto the sentry. Or if they manage to get all the way, then they can disable this passive node and it will make taking down this code gate much easier. But if you think about it, by the time they get all the way here or here, then they probably already spent so much effort that it makes up for the fact that they get to take down the code gate slightly easier. So I think that's acceptable. And besides, since the next goal is to level up the code gate all the way to possibly level 21, by the time it reaches level 21, even if they do manage to take over this node, then the damage from pure beam cannon or shuriken isn't going to be enough to take down the code gate at that point, and they pretty much have to use blasters or even battering ram. So it wouldn't actually matter once it gets to that point. And finally, yes, this is still vulnerable to battering rams, but so was the last network, so nothing really changed with regards to that. And on this scanner, I actually had to use the Guardians as the passive nodes for the scanner. And for one, that's because I ran out of passive nodes to use. I think the only other thing that I could have really used is probably the mines. But it's also because of distance issues. Because if we take a look, if I didn't have these nodes connected to the scanner, then these two storages would be out of range, and then I wouldn't be able to put the storages anywhere. So it does make it a bit vulnerable to shurikens, but I suppose it's for the best, because the upside is it makes it so that this node isn't vulnerable to shurikens, since the only other way would be to connect this scanner with this scanner, which would also be vulnerable to shurikens just the same. And finally, I intentionally put down the level 1 sentry here. That's because I wanted to use the Evolver as one of the passive nodes, not because I think the sentry here will actually do anything with the antivirus. But yeah, as I said, this is going to be a shorter episode, since I don't really have that much to show. That's it for this episode. Thank you. I'll see you guys next time.